I find particularly this commentary by the Indian defense minister of interest and of importance, because it appears to be making clear that India is through its intelligence services, to the operations of its intelligence services, to monitoring activities at Pakistani nuclear facilities, that India is an excellent picture about what is going on over there. It is such a good picture that towards the end of the fighting ended actually after India hit two entrances to one of Pakistani underground facilities suspected or assumed to be a nuclear weapon storage facility. When he now says that Pakistan's ability to handle nuclear weapons is questionable, on one side, this is nothing new. We have heard such concerns issued even by nuclear scientists, and not just few of them, already 20 years ago or even more. It is just a confirmation that the situation in this regards hasn't improved on one side. On the other side, that India is carefully monitoring what the Pakistan is doing at their nuclear facilities. So it is also a confirmation for this dominance or freedom of operation of Indian armed forces well inside Pakistan, because it means India has probably not only has satellites in orbit, but also probably long-range UAVs orbiting specific facilities inside Pakistan. And Pakistan, I'm saying this again and again, whatever India does, West is going to blame it for whatever Pakistan has done. So you simply kind of can't be right. Part of the reason is that you are allied with Russia, or at least buying Russian armament. Another, of course, is that Pakistan is buying or is donated US armament. And since this US armament is so precious to the Americans, and they're considering it an issue of honor, whether some of the holy F-16s is shot down or not. Therefore, it can't be that any was shot down, and India cannot be successful. I have reviewed a few of assessments and analyses of different colleagues in the West last night, and it's just quite typical to see they were all publishing ever more about the showdown between India and Pakistan on 8th of May or 9th of May, and on the morning of 10th of May, and ever since they're all quiet. They are all busying themselves with some other topics, so they are ignoring what has happened to Pakistan, what has India achieved. This is why I'm concerned that it might take a while for the Western politics to figure out the new realities between India and Pakistan, which is Pakistan cannot defend itself, cannot defend even its nuclear storage facilities. So that is my biggest concern, that the West is going to miss an opportunity to reorganize its politics towards India and start relations anew. It's a good opportunity, but it's unlikely to happen. As for reasons I said, there is lots of ignorance in this regards, lots of bias, absolutely unsubstantiated bias, even more so because West is at least as much troubled by religiously motivated terrorism as India has been. Excuse me for picking. Turkish government is in similar position like Pakistani. It is the present Turkish government. This is a crazy Islamist in power who is misusing religion for his own private purposes, actually really to stuff his own pockets full of money and those of his friends. So there is kind of a natural alliance between the two. Correspondingly, Turkish president is interested in Turkish businesses receiving orders from Pakistani government and also obtaining know-how about Pakistani combat experiences. This is a logical process, so to say. Now, the problem is the following. On one side, Pakistan is bankrupt actually since decades already. It's always kept alive by some sponsor from abroad. At earlier times, Saudi Arabia, then China, then Qatar, and now lately. So Pakistan actually on its own cannot afford really much. It is always dependable on what is, for example, Qatar currently ready to finance, what is Qatar ready to pay for, so Pakistan can acquire it. And the Chinese, they have their strategic alliance with Pakistan because Pakistan was highly influential in improving the production quality of specific Chinese weaponry all the time. For example, typical example is the Shenyang F-7 fighter jet, which was actually developed and made really capable of mass production thanks to Pakistani input. So the problem is now the following. All of this weaponry, US radars, Turkish command centers, Chinese fighter jets, Chinese missiles, indigenous rockets and missiles, all this has to be integrated into one operational system, into one system which is where a single node can control all the operations so that they are better coordinated. However, it seems there are ever more indications, at least, that besides this was a weak spot of the Pakistani armed forces, that their US radars were incompatible with their Chinese surface-to-air missiles, that Chinese surface-to-air missiles didn't know what the US radars were detecting, that the Air Force had a problem with coordinating some of the operations and so on and so on. So, great weapons, fantastic weapons, everything fine, great and fine, but the final trouble is firstly the integration, and secondly, how well are people operating that equipment trained? And when you are considering that Pakistani armed forces are armed forces of a country which is so heavily indoctrinated by its own military superiority, even if this is largely baseless, then it is kind of natural that there are negative repercussions for this, and that the armed forces are simply not professional enough. They're not scrutinizing their own combat experiences, they're not listening to people who have combat experiences, or they're ignoring what they should have learned. And then a defeat of this scope is de facto unavoidable. Therefore, by all, perhaps HQ-9 and HQ-16 surface-to-air missiles are much better than they performed in Pakistani service.